In today's class, I'll be showing you how to calculate the relative molecular mass of compounds. For example, calculate the relative molecular mass of these compounds. How do we calculate the relative molecular mass of a given compound? So we take the first one. The relative molecular mass of sodium trioxonitrate 5. To calculate the relative molecular mass of any given compound, all you have to do is to take the summation of the mass number of all the component elements. That's, you take the summation of the mass number of all the elements that make up the compound. For example, in sodium trioxonitrate 5, we have 3 elements. There we have sodium, we have nitrogen, and then we have oxygen. Okay, so what we have inside this bracket represents the relative atomic mass of elements that make up these compounds. Okay, so to calculate the relative molecular mass of sodium trioxonitrate 5, the first thing you should understand is this compound contains 1 atom of sodium, 1 atom of nitrogen, and then 3 atoms of oxygen. Okay, so the mass number of sodium is given as 23. So this will give us 23. And how many sodium atoms do we have here? 1. So 23 times 1 plus the mass number of nitrogen is given as 14. And how many nitrogen atoms do we have? 1. So we multiply by 1. Then finally, oxygen. The mass number of oxygen is given as 16. And there are 3 oxygen atoms in the compound. So you work this out, this will give you 23 plus 14 plus 16 times 3 will give us 48. And when you sum that up, you have 85 grams per mole. The unit of relative molecular mass is grams per mole, or gram, you can still leave it at gram. We take the second compound. Alright, this is aluminium tetraoxosulfate 6. Aluminium tetraoxosulfate 6. Once again, we have 3 component elements. We have aluminium, we have sulfur, and then we have oxygen. Okay? So, there are 2 aluminium atoms in this compound, and the mass number of aluminium is given as 27. So that will give us 27 times 2, since there are 2 aluminium atoms here. For sulfur, whenever you have a compound like this and a radical is being placed inside a bracket, and the number after the bracket is a multiplier, that is, it multiplies everything inside the bracket. So these 3 will multiply sulfur, these 3 will also multiply oxygen. So there are 3 sulfur atoms in this compound, as sulfur times these 3. So 1 sulfur atom has the mass number of 32. Then we multiply by 3 since we have 3 of it. Then we go to oxygen. There are 4 oxygen atoms inside the bracket, and then outside the bracket we have 3, which multiplies whatever we have inside the bracket. So oxygen is 16, mass number of 16 multiplied by 4 and then multiplied by 3. Okay, so we take the summation of this, and that will give us the relative molecular mass of the compound under consideration here. 27 times 2 will give us 54. 82 times 3 will give us 96. And then 16 times 4 times 3 is the same thing like 16 times 12, which gives us 192. So we take the summation of this. When we add this up, that will give us 342. We have 342 grams per mole. And then lastly, this is copper 2 tetraoxosulfate 6 pentahydrate. Is a hydrated compound, copper 2 tetraoxosulfate 6 with 5 molecules of water of crystallization. Okay, so this will give us copper is 64. 64 plus sulfur is 32 plus oxygen. There are 4 oxygen atoms here, so that will give us 16 times 4 plus this 5 will multiply hydrogen and also oxygen. Remember, this 5 represent the amount of water of crystallization that comes out with this compound itself. So this 5 represents, or it affects hydrogen and also affects oxygen. So for water, we'll have 5 times 2. Hydrogen is 1. 1 times 2 is 2. And then for oxygen, that will give us 5 times 16. 5 times 16. And we work it out. 16 times 4 will give us 64. 5 times 2 will give us 10. And then 5 times 16 will give us 90. We sum this up, and when we sum this up, this will give us 250 grams per mole. So the relative molecular mass of copper 2 tetraoxosulfate 6 pentahydrate is 250 grams per mole. Thank you very much for watching. If the video has been of help to you in one way or the other, do ensure to like, comment and share. And if you just coming across my video for the very first time, all you have to do is subscribe. Thank you.